I once believed that family meant unconditional love and support. My marriage to Natalie seemed perfect in the beginning. We were excited about our future together, planning for children, and dreaming about becoming parents. But I never anticipated how quickly things would change once her mother Eleanor entered the picture. When pregnancy did not happen right away, I started noticing the whispers and concerned glances. Before I tell you how my own wife betrayed me and how I found happiness in the most unexpected place, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you have ever had to stand up for yourself against family who tried to tear you down. I met Natalie at a friend's barbecue in Chicago 4 years ago. It was one of those perfect summer days with clear blue skies and the smell of charcoal filling the air. She had this infectious laugh that carried across the backyard, and I found myself gravitating toward her without even realizing it. We talked for hours that day, long after other guests had left. There was something genuine about her that pulled me in the way she listened intently when I spoke, how her eyes crinkled when she smiled. By the end of the night, I knew she was special. Our romance moved quickly after that. Within 6 months, we were practically inseparable. Natalie worked in marketing for a major retail company, creating campaigns that showcased her creativity and business savvy. I worked as a physical therapist, helping accident victims regain their mobility and confidence. We both had careers we were passionate about, and our lives seemed to fit together like pieces of a puzzle. When I proposed at the Chicago Botanic Garden under a canopy of twinkling lights, Natalie cried tears of joy. We envisioned building a life together, supporting each other through challenges, and celebrating victories as a team. Her family appeared welcoming initially, though I noticed her mother Eleanor always maintained a certain distance, studying me with calculating eyes, even as she smiled and offered congratulations. Our wedding was beautiful despite Eleanor's attempts to control every detail. Natalie had wanted a relaxed garden ceremony, but Eleanor pushed for an elaborate church wedding with hundreds of guests. We compromised with a medium-sized event at a historic mansion, which turned out perfectly. Still, there were moments throughout the planning process when I glimpsed what was to come. Eleanor questioning my family background, making comments about my salary, wondering aloud if I could provide properly for her daughter. After the honeymoon, we moved into our first home in a quiet suburb just outside the city. It was a modest 3-bedroom house with a small yard, perfect for starting a family someday. Those early days of marriage were filled with late-night conversations about our dreams, weekend projects, fixing up the house and building routines that became the foundation of our life together. We decided to postpone having children for the first 2 years of marriage. We wanted to establish our careers, save money, and simply enjoy being newlyweds without the added responsibility of parenthood. Natalie had just received a promotion, and I was expanding my client base at the rehabilitation center. The timing just was not right yet, and we both agreed that financial stability was important before bringing children into the world. Every Sunday we would drive to Eleanor's mansion in the wealthy North Shore for family dinner. These meals felt more like inspections than family gatherings. Eleanor would walk through her immaculate home, pointing out new acquisitions, an antique vase from France artwork, from a very exclusive gallery. She never failed to mention how these treasures would stay in the family for generations to come, her eyes drifting meaningfully toward Natalie and then to me. The Williams family has a legacy to maintain, she would say, swirling expensive wine in crystal glasses that probably cost more than my monthly student loan payment. 5 generations of success and prominence in this community. Natalie would nod along, squeezing my hand under the table. I thought it was her way of apologizing for her mother's pretentiousness, but looking back, I realized she was already being programmed to prioritize family legacy above all else. After our second anniversary, we decided it was time to start trying for a baby. We were financially secure, had converted one of the bedrooms into a potential nursery, and felt emotionally ready for parenthood. Those first few months were exciting, full of anticipation and spontaneous intimacy. We downloaded fertility apps, read parenting books, and started taking prenatal vitamins. There was something magical about this secret project between us, creating a new life together. Eleanor's interest in our reproductive plans increased exponentially during this time. What started as casual questions about grandchildren evolved into direct interrogations. "Have you thought about timing your attempts based on ovulation?" she would ask Natalie while I sat right there. "Your cousin Amanda got pregnant immediately using that European fertility monitor. Perhaps Alvin should be taking zinc supplements. Men in your father's family have always been very virile. All it took was one try with each of my pregnancies." At first, we laughed off her comments. 6 months into trying without success, however, the atmosphere began to change. Natalie started monitoring her temperature obsessively and scheduling our intimate moments based on fertility windows rather than connection or desire. The spontaneity and joy were slowly being replaced by anxiety and obligation. "Maybe we should see a doctor," she suggested one night, staring at another negative pregnancy test, "just to make sure everything is okay." I tried reassuring her that many couples took a year or more to conceive naturally. "Let's give it more time," I suggested. "Stress only makes conception more difficult. We should enjoy the process." But Eleanor had already planted seeds of doubt, and they were beginning to take root. During one Sunday dinner, she casually mentioned her bridge partner's daughter, who had discovered her husband had chromosomal issues after a year of trying. "They wasted so much time," Eleanor said, locking eyes with me. "If they had tested sooner, they could have explored other options before her biological clock started ticking so loudly." That was the first time I felt directly targeted, but unfortunately it was far from the last. The 1-year mark of trying to conceive arrived with still no pregnancy. What had started as an exciting journey was now fraught with tension and disappointment. Each month ended the same way, Natalie crying in the bathroom, followed by days of distant behavior. Our once passionate relationship had become mechanical, dictated by ovulation schedules and basal body temperatures. Eleanor no longer bothered with subtlety. "I think it is time for medical intervention," she declared during a Sunday dinner. "Specifically, Alvin should get tested first. It makes logical sense to eliminate the simpler variable before putting Natalie through invasive procedures." What shocked me was not Eleanor's suggestion. I had come to expect such things from her, but the fact that Natalie nodded in agreement. "Mom and I have been researching fertility specialists," she said, not meeting my eyes. "There is a renowned doctor who specializes in male fertility issues." The realization that they had been discussing our private struggles without me felt like a betrayal, but I wanted to be supportive. If medical testing would ease Natalie's anxiety and silence Eleanor's insinuations, I was willing to do it. I made appointments for both of us with a fertility specialist, recommended by my colleague, not Eleanor's renowned doctor. The preliminary results showed nothing obviously wrong with either of us. My sperm count was within normal range, and Natalie's hormonal levels appeared normal as well. The doctor suggested continued attempts with some lifestyle adjustments, less alcohol, more sleep, stress reduction techniques, and said that further testing could be done after another 6 months, if necessary. I thought this news would provide relief, but instead it seemed to intensify Eleanor's campaign. "Those general practitioners do not know what they are looking for," she scoffed. "We need to see Dr. Harrington. He found issues that 3 other doctors missed for my friend Victoria's son-in-law." Thanksgiving arrived with a gathering at Eleanor's mansion. The dining room was decorated with elaborate flower arrangements and fine china that had supposedly been in the family for generations. Natalie's extended family attended, including her cousin Jessica, who had recently divorced and was raising her daughter alone. I had always liked Jessica. She seemed more grounded than the rest of the family, perhaps because she had already broken from their expectations by divorcing her husband, who came from good stock, but turned out to be emotionally abusive. Eleanor stood to make a toast crystal glass, catching the chandelier light. "To family," she began, "and the bloodlines that connect us through generations. The Williams legacy continues through each of us, and soon we hope through a new generation." Her eyes rested pointedly on Natalie and me. "Some journeys to parenthood take unexpected turns," she continued, "but the important thing is preserving the family line. Though, of course, adoption is always an option, though it would not be quite the same as having a true Williams heir." The silence that followed was excruciating. Jessica looked uncomfortable, while other relatives shifted awkwardly in their seats. I maintained my composure, taking a long sip of water instead of responding to the bait. Natalie stared at her plate, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, not at her mother's behavior, I realized later, but at my perceived failure. The moment that truly shattered my world came after dessert. Eleanor cornered me near the kitchen while I was helping clear dishes. "I am going to be direct with you, Alvin," she said, voice lowered but sharp as a blade. "I believe you are infertile, and you are denying my daughter her birthright by refusing specialized testing. The Williams women have never had fertility problems, 5 generations of prolific childbearers. The issue is clearly with you." I was stunned into silence, plate still in hand. What made it worse was seeing Natalie standing nearby, hearing everything, saying nothing in my defense. When our eyes met, she quickly looked away. The drive home was silent. Natalie stared out the passenger window while I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. When we finally reached our house, the tension exploded in our kitchen. "How could you stand there and say nothing while your mother accused me of being defective?" I demanded, my voice shaking with hurt and anger. "She is just concerned," Natalie replied weakly. "And honestly, Alvin, I am starting to think she might be right. What if you are the problem? Should not we know for sure?" Her words hit me like physical blows. "The doctor said we were both normal," I reminded her. "And even if there was an issue with either of us, we are supposed to be a team. Not you and your mother against me." "I have been talking to Mom about this for months," she admitted. "She thinks we should try more specialized testing for you. There are procedures that can extract sperm directly if that is necessary." The casual way she discussed invasive procedures on my body, procedures that our doctor had not even suggested, made my blood run cold. I slept in the guest room that night, and for several nights afterward, claiming I needed space to process. In reality, I was beginning to see my marriage in a disturbing new light. During that week apart, I discovered troubling evidence of how deep the conspiracy between Natalie and Eleanor went. I found fertility supplements hidden in my protein powder, clearly added without my knowledge or consent. One evening, I overheard Natalie on the phone with Eleanor, her voice low but clear from the hallway. "I know, Mom. The doctor said his count was normal, but you are right. There must be something wrong with the motility or morphology. I will ask for the advanced testing next time. Yes, I know the Williams line is at stake." The final straw came when Natalie announced she had canceled our planned Christmas vacation to Colorado, a trip we had been saving for all year, because she had scheduled important appointments with Eleanor's fertility specialist. I did not agree to see that doctor, I said, bewildered by her unilateral decision. "We need answers, Alvin," she replied, her tone suggesting I was being unreasonable. "Mom pulled strings to get us in before the holidays. Do you not want a baby?" That night, unable to sleep, I checked Natalie's laptop that she had left open on the kitchen counter. I had never invaded her privacy before, but something drove me to look at her email. There I found dozens of exchanges with Eleanor with subject lines like Alvin's treatment options and genetic testing possibilities. In one message, Natalie had written words that would forever change how I saw her. "Sometimes I wonder if I made a mistake marrying someone with potentially defective genes. The Williams line has never had these problems." Each year we hosted a Christmas party at our home for friends and extended family. Despite the growing tension between us, Natalie insisted we maintain appearances. "People are already talking about our fertility struggles," she said. "We do not need to give them more to gossip about." Eleanor arrived 2 hours early, claiming she wanted to help prepare. In reality, she took over, completely rearranging my carefully planned appetizer displays and replacing my chosen music with classical Christmas carols she deemed more appropriate for the Williams family tradition. I was retrieving more wine from our basement storage when I overheard Eleanor speaking to Natalie's aunt in the kitchen above. "Such a shame about Alvin, Eleanor," said her voice, dripping with false sympathy. "He cannot give Natalie children, you know. We are looking into options, but at this point I think she needs to consider whether this marriage is serving her future. The Williams women have always been matriarchs of large families." "Is it confirmed?" the aunt asked. "As good as," Eleanor replied. "What other explanation could there be? Natalie is young, healthy, from fertile stock." 1 year and 4 months of trying. It is clearly him. I remained frozen on the basement steps, wine bottle clutched in my hand as my mother-in-law continued to assassinate my character and manhood to anyone who would listen. What cut deeper was hearing Natalie enter the conversation and offering no defense when her aunt asked directly if I was the problem. "We are still doing tests," she said weakly, which was tantamount to confirmation in gossip currency. I somehow made it through the next hour of the party, mechanically pouring drinks and making small talk while feeling like a ghost in my own home. Jessica noticed something was wrong and found me alone in the dining room rearranging napkins that did not need rearranging. "You okay?" she asked quietly. "You seem a million miles away." "Just tired," I lied, though from her expression she did not believe me. "My mother and aunt have big mouths," she said. "For what it is worth, I think how they are acting is terrible. Family should support each other, not tear each other down." Her kindness nearly broke me. I excused myself and found Natalie in our bedroom touching up her makeup before rejoining the party. "Your mother is telling everyone I am infertile," I said, without preamble. Natalie's hand paused, eyeliner hovering near her face. "She is just concerned," she replied, not denying it. "Concerned. She is humiliating me in our own home, Natalie. And you are letting her. No, you are agreeing with her." "Well, what am I supposed to think, Alvin?" she snapped, finally showing some emotion. "We have been trying for over a year. My friends all got pregnant right away. My sister had 3 kids in 4 years. The problem has to be somewhere, and you are not even trying hard enough to find out what is wrong." Before I could respond, the bedroom door opened without a knock. Eleanor stood there, perfectly coiffed and utterly unashamed at interrupting an obviously private moment. "Natalie, the Hendersons just arrived," she said, then looked at me with thinly veiled contempt. "Alvin, this is hardly the time for another one of your emotional discussions. We have guests." I stared at this woman who had systematically worked to undermine my marriage and my self-worth, and something inside me finally snapped. Not in anger, but in clarity. "This is my home," I said quietly but firmly. "You do not get to dictate when or how I speak to my wife." Eleanor's eyebrows shot up. "Well, I am just trying to salvage this party while you have another meltdown about perfectly reasonable medical discussions." Medical discussions. You have been telling our guests I am defective. That is not medical. It is malicious. She waved her hand dismissively. Sometimes Natalie needs someone to speak the hard truths. If you cannot give her children, she needs to know her options, while she is still young enough to find someone who can. A real man would want that for her. I looked at Natalie, waiting for her to defend me, to put her mother in her place. Instead, she sighed and said, "Mom is just emotional about this, Alvin. She wants grandchildren so badly." In that moment, I saw with perfect clarity what the rest of my life would look like if I stayed in this marriage. A constant battle against Eleanor's machinations with no ally in my corner, not even my own wife. Years of being diminished, second-guessed, and scapegoated for any problem in our lives. "I think the party is over," I said calmly. "I would appreciate it if everyone would leave." "You cannot be serious," Eleanor scoffed. "There are 30 people downstairs. Watch me." I walked downstairs and clinked a glass to get everyone's attention. With as much dignity as I could muster, I thanked them for coming, but explained that due to an unexpected situation, we needed to end the gathering early. Some looked confused, others curious, but most began gathering their things without question. As the last guests were leaving, Jessica touched my arm gently. "If you need someone to talk to who understands the Williams family dysfunction, call me," she said, pressing her business card into my palm. "Been there, survived that." I nodded gratefully, then turned to Natalie and Eleanor, who stood together at the bottom of the stairs, a united front against me. "I'm going to stay at a hotel tonight," I told Natalie. "I need some space to think." "Do not be ridiculous," Eleanor interjected. "Running away does not solve anything." I looked her directly in the eyes for perhaps the first time without trying to appease her. "I am not speaking to you, Eleanor. I am speaking to my wife. And I am not running away. I am taking space to protect my mental health from what has become a toxic environment. The shocked look on her face almost made the whole evening worthwhile. The next day, instead of going to work, I called in sick and made an appointment with a specialist, recommended by my friend Mark, not anyone connected to the Williams family circle. Dr. Rivera was a straightforward reproductive endocrinologist who listened carefully to my situation. "Let me guess," he said, after I explained the past year. "Your mother-in-law has decided you are the problem, without any medical evidence." "Exactly," I replied, surprised at his intuition. "See it more often than you would think," he said kindly. "Let us run a comprehensive panel, and then you will have actual facts, not just family mythology." 3 days later, Dr. Rivera called with the results. "Your fertility parameters are completely normal," he said. "Sperm count, morphology, motility, all within healthy ranges. There is absolutely no medical reason to believe you have any fertility issues whatsoever." A weight lifted from my shoulders. While I had tried to ignore Eleanor's accusations, they had seeped into my subconscious, making me question myself. "I would recommend your wife come in for further testing," he added. "Often, when couples struggle to conceive, there can be subtle hormonal or structural issues that need addressing." I thanked him and asked for the results in writing. When I suggested to Natalie that she see Dr. Rivera, she refused outright. "Mom says he is not even in the top tier of fertility specialists," she said dismissively. "We need to see Dr. Harrington. He can refer you to a urologist for more invasive testing." That evening, I consulted with a divorce attorney. I did not make the decision lightly, but after discovering texts between Natalie and Eleanor discussing various procedures they wanted me to undergo and ways to fix me, I realized our marriage could not be saved. When I presented Natalie with both my clean bill of reproductive health and my decision to file for divorce, her reaction confirmed I was making the right choice. "This is ridiculous," she said, scanning the medical report. "One doctor's opinion does not mean anything. And you are throwing away our marriage because of a few comments." "A few comments. Natalie, you and your mother have been systematically undermining me, discussing my supposed medical issues with everyone from family to neighbors, making plans for invasive procedures without my consent, and treating me like I am defective. That is not love. That is not partnership. You are just being sensitive," she said, but I could see the first flicker of doubt in her eyes. "What will people think if we divorce over something like this?" Her concern for appearances, rather than the damage done to our relationship, told me everything I needed to know. 2 weeks later, I moved out permanently. The months following our separation were both painful and liberating. I rented an apartment closer to my practice, focusing on my career and rebuilding my sense of self-worth that had been so damaged during my marriage. The divorce proceedings moved forward with minimal drama. Natalie seemed more embarrassed than heartbroken, which was its own kind of pain. I began seeing a therapist who helped me recognize the emotional abuse I had endured. "Fertility struggles bring out underlying issues in relationships," she explained. "Your mother-in-law exploited a vulnerable situation, but your wife chose to allow and participate in that." Slowly, I reconnected with friends I had drifted away from during my marriage, many of whom admitted they had seen red flags in how Natalie and Eleanor treated me, but had not known how to bring it up. My brother, who had never liked Eleanor, provided particularly strong support, reminding me of who I was before all this began. Throughout this time, Jessica and I occasionally texted. Her insights into the Williams family psychology proved invaluable as I processed the end of my marriage. She understood Eleanor's manipulations better than anyone, having been subjected to similar treatment during her own divorce 3 years earlier. "Eleanor destroyed my marriage too," she confided during one conversation. Different tactics, same result. She convinced my ex that I was not Williams material because I wanted to pursue art instead of the corporate path. Said I would dilute the family ambition gene pool. 6 months after moving out, I ran into Jessica at a coffee shop near my new apartment. She was sketching in a notebook her daughter at a playdate. What I had intended as a quick hello turned into a 3-hour conversation about everything from toxic family dynamics to our shared love of historical documentaries. "I always thought you were the most normal person at those Williams family gatherings," she admitted with a laugh. "Never understood what you saw in Natalie, to be honest." "She was different before we got married," I explained. "Or maybe I just did not see who she really was." Jessica nodded. "Eleanor raises her daughters to be extensions of herself. I escaped because my mom died when I was young, so I only got the aunt version of Eleanor, not the full maternal programming." Over the next few months, Jessica and I developed a friendship that gradually evolved into something more. We were cautious at first, both burned by past relationships and aware of the complicated family dynamics. But there was an honesty between us that I had never experienced with Natalie, a sense that we saw and accepted each other completely. "I always wanted more children," Jessica told me one evening as we watched her daughter Charlotte playing at the park. "My ex did not. That was the real reason for our divorce, not all the Williams family drama. Eleanor just accelerated the inevitable." "I still want children too," I admitted. "That has not changed despite everything." When our relationship became serious, we decided to try for a baby. After my experience with Natalie, I had no expectations about timing prepared for a long journey. To our shock and joy, Jessica became pregnant within 2 months. The first ultrasound brought news that left us both stunned twins. 2 healthy heartbeats flickering on the screen. I cried right there in the examination room, overwhelmed by the irony and the happiness. News of our relationship had already caused a stir in the Williams family. But the pregnancy announcement sent Eleanor into a fury. She called it inappropriate, suspicious, and a deliberate attempt to hurt Natalie. The reality, of course, was that Jessica and I had found genuine love and connection through our shared experiences. Natalie's reaction surprised me. After the initial shock, she sent a brief but sincere email. "I owe you an apology. Mom had me convinced there was something wrong with you when the problem was us, how we treated you and how we approached our marriage. I am sorry, Alvin. It was not a reconciliation, but it provided a sense of closure I had not realized I needed. When our twin boys were born healthy, perfect, and undeniable proof of my fertility, we created the family I had always dreamed of." Charlotte embraced her role as big sister with pride, helping with bottles and singing made-up lullabies. Our home became filled with the beautiful chaos of children, laughter, and genuine love. We set clear boundaries with the Williams family, allowing relationships with those who respected our marriage, while limiting contact with Eleanor to supervised visits on our terms. Some family members chose sides, but many recognized the toxic dynamics at play and supported our happiness. Looking back on this journey, I realized that standing up for myself was the hardest yet most necessary thing I ever did. I had to lose a family that was built on conditions and appearances to find one built on respect and genuine love. True family, I learned, has nothing to do with bloodlines or legacy. It is about who stands beside you in your darkest moments and celebrates with you in your brightest. The twins are now 2 years old, running around our backyard with the boundless energy of toddlers. Charlotte, now 8, teaches them new words and games, with the patience of a much older soul. Jessica and I sometimes catch each other's eyes over their heads, sharing silent gratitude for the unexpected path that brought us together. Pain can transform into joy when you remain true to yourself and refuse to accept treatment that diminishes your worth. Our family exists because I finally found the courage to walk away from people who could not see my value. The twins are living proof that life's sweetest victories often come after our darkest moments. If you have ever faced similar family struggles or had to stand up against those who tried to make you feel less than enough, share your experience in the comments below. Remember that sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the greatest happiness. If my story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And if you know someone dealing with toxic family dynamics, share this video. It might be the encouragement they need to choose themselves. Thank you for listening. And remember, your worth is never determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to treat yourself.